𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐿, when the Portuguese left and the apartheid South Africa wanted to invade Angola, the Cubans came and defeated apartheid South Africa. It retreated, and part of the conditions of ceasefire in 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐿 in Angola. Now we're in power, we say to Cuba, thank you very much for being a good friend. We know that America has imposed an illegal embargo in Cuba. You can't survive. Here is 50 million. Who stand up first? AfriForum says this money must be stopped. Why? Because Cuba eba shapile bontate moholo ba bona le montata bona ko 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐿 ba betha le buru la bua le matha mo South Africa. So they are still angry with Cuba for what Cuba did to Afrikaner soldiers in 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐿. We're now busy mo kama utwa masetla mo Twitter. Honyo, you can't give Cuba money, honyo. You don't know what is Cuba. So be careful what you are inviting. American economy was brought up and made what it is by immigrants who went to work there. Americans still today, once they identify a skill in someone else all over the world and that skill they don't have it, they come to poach that person and take that person to America. That they, on arrival, they give you green card because you've got talent. These Zimbabweans and Nigerians that we hate so much, why can't we identify from them what is it that they are good with, that we can tap in and make our economy a better economy? Remember, in Zimbabwe, there was no Bantu education because there were not too many whites there. Ian Smith had to teach both black and white the same education because that economy needed more skilled people and they didn't have more whites. That's why they educated the blacks the same way. So when you deal with Zimbabweans, remember those are the people who never received inferior education. When AfriForum says to you, don't give 50 million to Cuba, Cuba is the one that came to help Angola and fought successfully in 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐿 when the Portuguese left and the apartheid South Africa wanted to invade Angola. The Cubans came and defeated apartheid South Africa. It retreated, and part of the conditions of ceasefire in 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐿 in Angola was what the Cubans said, that you must give freedom to the black people in South Africa and you must allow the return of the ANC back into the country. Only then we'll retreat back to Cuba and leave Angola. There is no camp of MK that did not have a Cuban commander who was training MK soldiers. There is no camp of MK that did not have a Cuban doctor to come and look after the liberation fighters who were being prepared to come and fight for our freedom. What is 50 million under the sun when the people were prepared to put their children in line to die for our freedom? Now we're in power, we say to Cuba, thank you very much for being a good friend. We know that America has imposed an illegal embargo in Cuba. You can't survive. Here is 50 million. Who stand up first? AfriForum says this money must be stopped. Why? Because Cuba eba shapile bontate moholo ba bona le montata bona ko 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐿 ba betha le buru la bua le matha mo South Africa. So they are still angry with Cuba for what Cuba did to Afrikaner soldiers in 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐬𝐿. We're now busy mo kama utwa masetla mo Twitter. Honyo, you can't give Cuba money, honyo. You don't know what is Cuba. Mareba kare refer America 50,000. Oh, what a nice hey. America, our own enemy. our own enemy. This mess of colonialism, imperialism, and apartheid is sponsored from there. But you don't know your friends. Today, UN voted that America must uplift the embargo in Cuba. America uses its financial muscle to UN, uses its military capacity, uses its veto power to overrule the majority of countries that said Cuba must be free. We are not free if Cuba is not free. Our friends are in China. The Communist Party of China is what we want to make South Africa. South Africa must be like China and have people working and producing for themselves. China never fought with them. They hate China because it has taken charge of its own economy. The Chinese Communist Party just finished its successful conference. We congratulate them, and they must know in us they've got friends. Ethiopia, the war has been stopped. In Tigray, lots of bodies have been killed there in Ethiopia of black people. African Union has intervened. Even though they are late, we appreciate the peace in Ethiopia. But there is a war coming in DRC and Rwanda. DRC and Rwanda, black people are about to kill each other. The African Union should be in DRC and Rwanda now and calling for ceasefire. Africans must stop using weapons on Africans. We must find peaceful, lasting solutions to a possible war in DRC and Rwanda. We must never be known as people who can think, who can reason, who use weapons to resolve differences. Whatever is happening between Rwanda, between DRC, Tshisekedi, and Rwanda, we want them to find a lasting solution. Guns must be silenced in Africa. Rebels that we see today are not like the rebels of yesterday which were fighting colonial powers. The rebels of today are sponsored by colonialists and imperialists to destabilize the countries in Africa so that they can come and steal our mineral resources in the African continent. Therefore, we will never support rebels without a cause. We may not be happy with this or that government, but changing government through coup is an unacceptable practice that the EFF will not tolerate. If you think you've got a point, if you think the people are with you, stand for election and win the elections. Do not use guns to kill each other, because the victims of such war is black people, and will never celebrate the death of black people. Fighters, the conference is about to end. We are now going into the voting of additionals. Once it's done,